Now, as I understand it, Humana is going to host a hurricane preparedness class up in
Yes.
Baton Rouge. Could you
Yes.
provide some details about that? It's August 11th, I believe.
Yes, we have someone from the National Meteorological Society, as well as a local nurse case manager and myself. We're going to talk about the preparedness, hurricane preparedness tips, and the importance of really getting a plan together. We understand that people with limited mobility may have challenges when it comes time to evacuate, even if it's 20 miles away. We understand that those with chronic medical conditions have certain concerns, and there's a lot of tips that we can give them, and that's what the class is designed to do, to have people really think about it and then put together a plan that addresses their needs and maybe the needs of other family members too, because we all know people tend to evacuate, mom, dad, kids, grandparents, everybody's kind of holed up somewhere, and understanding what's the best way to handle that is what this class is designed to do. So we're excited about offering it to our members. And, in light of the past decade or more, we've seen multiple evacuations, and we really do understand some of the challenges that occur that are avoidable for some people if they think through it on the front end, not to forget medicines or other things. We just find it's a great benefit, and we want to do it as a service to the individuals in the areas we serve. I think there's a lot of lessons everyone learned, individually and as a community, and healthcare lessons. But for those, especially the vulnerable individuals that have limited mobility, they need to plan ahead. They need to be prepared. They need to have a plan of action. And Humana has a little, I guess, a easy way to remember it. It's pick it up is what we say. And the P part is to prepare in advance. We know when hurricane season's coming. Hurricanes aren't going to occur in February when Mardi Gras is going on. So when that season comes, you need to prepare. You need to plan ahead. What medicines do you need? You need information too. So if you're going to evacuate or the potential for evacuation occurs, individuals with limited mobility need to try to plan where they're going to go, who they're going to go with, what assistive devices they need to bring. If they're on chronic medicine, you should consider maybe a 90-day supply rather than a 30-day supply, so that if you evacuate and you end up out of your home for a period of time, you have enough supply of medicine. They should consider bringing all the supplies they use on a regular basis. The other thing to consider is some people will be not necessarily evacuating, but they'll be in their home. And they need to consider, if they're in their home and the electricity isn't working, for a period of time, how can they best shelter in place? And again, those with limited mobility are the most vulnerable. I think we saw that with Katrina and some of the other storms, because the availability of transportation for them was somewhat limited, or their ability for them to travel any length of time is difficult. And evacuations are a challenge for everyone, we know, because of the length of time you might sit on the interstate or in a car. And with people with chronic mobility issues or with really serious chronic medical illnesses or ongoing conditions, whereas a younger person without conditions might be able to sit 7 hours in the car to go 100 miles, someone with a chronic illness such as diabetes or heart failure or hypertension or any of the other illnesses that require regular medication and follow-up and dietary restraint, they're going to have a bigger challenge. So planning ahead, snacks, where you're going to go, have your information. You need to bring a kit. That's part of it, a little travel kit, Band-Aids, antibiotic ointment. You need to have that at home if you shelter in place too, because the other consideration is that healthcare won't, and the services you're used to having in your community may shut down for a period of time. So whether you stay in place or you evacuate, the ability to run to the doctor or to the pharmacy may not be there. We all saw what happened in New Orleans. People were stuck in their houses for a long period of time, and even after, for a longer period, there was not full access to care. So individuals need to think through that, what they need to bring, what information they have. Always have a little, medical emergency kit. If you're diabetic, you want to have a snack. Even if you're just bringing your kids, you want to have bandages and tape and some ibuprofen and things like that, so that if you're stuck and you can't get out, or you're sitting in the car for 4 hours, you can address smaller issues. The other thing is you need to plan on when you're going to come back and how you're going to make it back. That was another issue I think a lot of people saw. They had chronic conditions, they had mobility issues, and maybe they got somewhere else, but then getting back home was difficult. So again, it's one of those topics that's really important for all of us. We live here, we love living here, but we know that there's a lot of people in our community that are going to be affected if next week someone calls for an evacuation. And thinking ahead and planning ahead is one of the best ways to be as best prepared as you can be. I don't know that you can prepare fully for a full-blown hurricane, but you have to consider the conditions you have and how you can optimize how are you going to handle diabetes, hypertension, or all 2 or 3 conditions together. So I think in Katrina we saw a lot of people had 2 or 3 days of medicine. They didn't plan to be evacuated for a long time. They didn't have refills on their medicine, so getting a 90-day supply, making sure you have enough supplies, diabetic strips or food and necessary items for more than a 2 to 3 day stay is really important.